Why are older women typically better dating candidates?
Well, the reality is that you would hope that everybody, as they get older, that they become more mature. You look at a lot of the red pill guys, and they complain about younger women, and then they hit the wall when they get in their late 20s, early 30s, and it's all downhill for you. But what also happens is women mature. It's when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, it was like I was talking about in an earlier question we did. It's like the really hot girls were typically hooking up with a small percentage of the most popular dudes, and the most popular guys were dating a lot are like the girls that every dude wanted to date. And the reality was, even though it was a Catholic high school, it was a private school, and even when I was a freshman at Pompano High that first year before they closed it, it's like all the girls, almost every girl was having sex already, most of them. Whether it was with their boyfriends or, occasionally they might hook up with one of the other guys in class because they liked each other, and they might date for a few weeks, and then it doesn't work out, and then she might date a different guy for a few weeks who's also popular and handsome, and maybe they date for a few months. Like, I just remember high school relationships, you would see that a lot. Some girls might have 2 or 3 boyfriends throughout the year. It's like homecoming for football, which tends to be before Christmas. They're going with one guy, so you see him in a picture in the yearbook with that dude, and then for the basketball homecoming towards the end of the year, or even senior prom, they might be with a different boyfriend then. And to us growing up, it's like 2-3 months with somebody. That's a big chunk. It's at least a third of the school year right there. And so for us, when you're young, it's like that was a long time. But these girls were not innocent little flowers. They were getting laid. They might have a couple of hookups in between boyfriends or whatever. But it's not something new that pretty girls, not only it's easy for them to get laid, but they do get laid. And like we were talking about earlier, the guys that make the biggest stink about that are the guys that aren't getting any. As it really is ridiculous. Well, I'm speaking to the choir. It's really easy because this pretty women, when they're younger, they get bombarded constantly. When they get a little older, especially they get late 20s, early 30s, women get confident and they kind of know what they want, and they learn to recognize the guys that know how to act like men and the little boys that probably in about 10, 15 years will get their shit together. But I noticed it. I did a video that did real well on Instagram talking about that. How, like, when I got into my early, mid-30s, I noticed that some of the older women became really aggressive. I remember walking on a dance floor with one girl and dancing with her, and then, then we start walking off together, and another girl was even prettier, comes by and grabs my hand and then pulls me out to the dance floor and starts dancing with me and bumping and grinding. And she was hotter than the first girl I was dancing with, so I ended up dancing with her, and it was cool just because I was in my early 30s at that point, and I had a different presence about me. I had a different vibe, a completely different energy than when I was in my early 20s and didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so I got a lot more attention from older women my age, and as well as younger women. Whereas, when I was younger and I had displayed a lot of the beta traits that were in my book because I didn't know any better, I'd see girls, I'd go out on a couple dates and then, man, I just think he was a friend. There's something missing. And because I didn't know how to lead. I didn't know how to capitalize on women that already had high interest. So after they interacted with me enough, they could tell, oh, dude, he doesn't get it. And I get 2-3 dates and I'd be out the door. But 10 years later, now women are almost fighting over me. And so, but that's the nice thing about a woman as she gets older and gets some life experience, has a few boyfriends or maybe a husband, and gets her heart broken here once or twice, and she knows how to recognize the men that have it and the men that don't. And she doesn't want to fuck around with little boys that don't have their shit together. She wants a man. And women that are freshmen in college, that are away from mom and dad, that are horny, and that now they can have sex, and they're meeting guys, and the parents aren't around to interfere or whatever, they're going to have a good time. And they were doing it when I was younger. They were doing it when my parents were younger, and even when my grandparents. women have sex more, I mean, statistically, than they did a long time ago, but it's, like I said, it's not something new that it's very easy for women to sleep with, especially if she's pretty, with a lot of dudes in a short period of time until settles down. But everybody, the same thing. So the guys get, I was more mature in my 30s, so I was able, those girls that blew me off when I was younger, as I got older, those girls were no longer blowing me off. They were chasing after me, and that sure is a nice thing for a man to go from having a pussy embargo basically when you're younger to basically having a all you can eat buffet. It's pretty nice. It's good for your confidence. It's good for your ego. And the bottom line is when women see that other women like you, more women become attracted to you and they compete for you, and that's a cool thing. But you have to give off the right vibe. You have to display attractive behavior that we all naturally have, because Mother Nature's handled attraction. Attraction's not a choice. A woman knows within like 3 seconds if she date and sleep with you as soon as she lays eyes on you. And then what happens after that is most guys experience, especially when they encounter the beautiful woman, as Doc Love used to say, the beautiful woman is like kryptonite to a guy, to most men, because she has the power to make dudes fall apart. We've all seen that, where you have these jock-style dudes, and then he's the total leader amongst men, and then a real hot girl shows up, and he's falling all over himself, fumbling his words. His body language changes. He goes from being the leader, his chest out, to being hunched over and acting like he's not worthy to be in her presence. And so women recognize that as they get older. They've been hit on enough and dated enough and slept with enough dudes to learn a thing or two.
I remember seeing a video on Instagram a while back. It's just like, this girl's literally my age, and she is in college. So context, she's 26 like me. I remember, it's one of those videos where they have people walking around with mics asking you questions, and then they make reels out of them. It's one of those videos. And basically, it was, I believe the question to the girl was, what were her thoughts on hookup culture? And basically, she's like, dude, I'm 26. I'm too old for that. I'm ready to settle down. So I feel like a good chunk of the times, especially as women get older, we know more or less what we want. And when it comes to hookups, for us, it's like a phase from when we're 18, 19, 20. At least for me, that's how I see it.
I feel like there's no age for when you should be settling down. A lot of people think, oh, I have to be married by 25. I want to have kids by 26, 27, and then live out my life with that same soulmate. But I personally feel like everybody's different. There's no certain age where you have to do these things. There's no timeline. I mean, if you want to have kids as a woman, you should probably get to going on it before you get into your mid 30s, because after that it becomes a lot harder unless you want to do treatments or adopt or what have you. So other than that, I don't think there's any timeline to where you should settle down, or you could continue being in the hookup culture or whatever it is, just wherever your goals and your mindsets are.
Most women grow out of it, especially as they age out. It's like like Jennifer was talking on a podcast that we did last year. She was like, when she hit 24, 25, she's just like, I want a baby. I want to hold a baby. I want a baby. But before that, she was partying, having a good time, dating. Like the guy that she ended up marrying, she was dating 2 other dudes. So she had a rotation of 3 guys going. And then her husband was the one that won her over, and she had her 2 daughters, who you guys know, Gracie and Walker. But it's, there is something innate that goes on there that, especially as a lot of the dudes in the red pill community like to rip on, oh, they've hit the wall, no guy wants you anymore. It's like, there was that famous model, Paulina Poroskova, who was married to Rick Ocasek, who just passed away a few years ago. A big band in the 1980s called The Cars. They had a shit ton of hits. They were always on MTV. They were always on the radio. And he was, 20-something years older than her, and she was hot and young, 18, 19, just beautiful, one of the most beautiful women in the world. And they were together until about she left him like a year before he died. And so now she's in her, I think she's a few years older than me, 50, 55, 58. her hair's all gray. She's still fit. And she has a great body. She's in great shape, but she's posting pictures on Instagram of the gray hair and all of her wrinkles. Just go, oh, look at me. And she did a video where she noticed, like, when she's out socializing and talking, and men are talking to her, that as soon as a young pretty girl walks up, it's like all the guys just they just go from talking to her and being interested. It's like they're humoring her to they go for the younger girl. And what's difficult for her is that she was with her husband her whole life, and obviously she could tell men were interested, but she was married, and especially when she was younger. And so they're all ripping on her, like, oh, you hit the wall, it's all downhill. It's like, it happens to everybody. Everybody gets older, and I mean, there'll be some dude, probably some guy 10, 15 years older than her, that will love to date her or love to have her, and right off into the sunset, especially somebody that's already had kids and raised their family, and they're cool to just play with their grandkids and right off into the sunset and enjoy the rest of their life and share it with somebody who they enjoy spending time with. So it's like they act like, oh, she's never going to find love again. She'll never find anybody. And, it's just a shitty way to be. But that content is very triggering and upsetting, and it gets a lot of views.
God forbid she's a single mom.
Yeah. Well, technically she is, even though I think her kids are all adults now, and they have lives of their own. But it's silly. I mean, sometimes people die. Sometimes they're widowers. Shit happens. It's life.